Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be making the Kensley Tote by Sew Your Patterns. I am super excited to be making this bag. So real quickly, let's go over our pattern pieces. I am opting to do the zipper panel, so I did cut out 4 of my exterior, and I have it interfaced with Sew Fuse Plus. Your next pattern piece, you're going to want to have 2 of your front exterior side panels. These are also interfaced with Sew Fuse Plus. We have our connectors. Yes, let me double check to make sure those are my connectors. Yes, so these are the handle connectors, and you're going to have 4 of these. And I'm not going to give out any measurements because you should have these all in your pattern if you bought the pattern. So I also have 2 handles. I have my flap. I have it in both an exterior and a vinyl. My exterior is lined, or my lining, this is going to be my lining. My vinyl is going to be the exterior. I did line it in Sew Fuse Plus. We also have the top lining. So this is the lining top. You're going to have 2 of those. And most of my vinyl pieces are not interfaced. So these are just going to be not interfaced. So I don't have any Sew Fuse Plus on it. However, I do have Sew Fuse Plus on my bottom on the bottom exterior pieces, which is this right here. So this is interfaced with Sew Fuse Plus. Right here is going to be our front, back, and top exterior. So we have the front and then we have the back. This is our back panel piece. We have our front exterior pocket. So we have that. We have it in the lining along with the exterior, and I am using waterproof canvas, so I don't have to worry about interfacing that. If you're using a quilting cotton, you're going to want to make sure that you interface that. For my second piece, I have the front exterior pocket back, and I wasn't exactly sure if I was going to use vinyl or if I was going to use the back exterior. I will decide once I get there. So I just went ahead and cut out 2. We have our lining, our main lining, along with the zipper pocket. And so what I did, my zipper pocket is a little bit different. I just doubled the length of it. Instead of cutting 2 pieces at the suggested measurement that it told me, I just combined it, so I had 1 piece like this. And then I have my I opted to do the slip panel, which she has the option for you to do. So I'm going to be adding a slip pocket along with I'm going to add a vinyl overlay to the top of my slip pocket. So this will just kind of go over like that. Just a little contrasting. So let's get into our bag. We're going to start with the handles. I always like to start with my handles just to get them out of the way. So let's go ahead and grab those, and we can set the rest of these aside. Okay, I'm going to change out my bobbin. I'm going to put a new one in, and I'm using Tech 70 thread from Sunny Sewing. This is the rose gold pink, I believe. So I'm going to be using this really pretty rose gold pink. Or it could be blush pink. I can't remember the name. But of course, I will have all of the products that I use in the description box below, so you can check out where I purchased my supplies from. So I'm just going to thread my machine because I forgot to do that before I started filming. Luckily, I already have a bobbin wound, so that's nice. So I like to just start with my handles just to get them out of the way. That way, when I'm finished the bag and I have all that excitement, I don't have to worry about making handles. They're already done. All I have to do is place the rivets on and attach them. So all right. So for our straps, we're going to mark out our center. And our center is going to be, you're going to mark it at 2 inches. So the handles are 4 inches wide. So we're going to go ahead and mark our 1 inch or our 2 inches center. So just go ahead and align this and draw your center line on both of your lining piece or both of your strap pieces. So we have one there. Let's go ahead and grab the second. We will add some double-sided tape, and then we will put the place the strap raw edges to the middle. I'm going to go ahead and grab my double-sided tape. So I'm just going to put it right down the middle. Okay, so we have one of our straps with double-sided tape, and now we're going to add the second. Now I'm using double-sided tape from Waywack. It is one of my favorite tapes to use. So I am going to be going right up to that line I drew, but I'm not going right up to it, sorry. I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch gap from the, from that line. So I want to leave a little bit of a gap. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to do the same thing, leaving a gap also. As you can see, that the raw edges are not butting up together. And this will just help me get a nice, clean fold for my handles. I'm going to go ahead and turn it and fold it. And do the same to my other. I'm just gonna make my way down while I fold. Some extra clips. Okay, so there's one. Do the same thing to our second one. Grab a couple more clips. we're going to take off our double-sided tape and do the same thing we did to our first handle, leaving this little gap from that line we drew. So you can see we're not fully up to that line. And now we're gonna go down the other side, just doing the same thing. Making sure everything stays nice and even. Then we will clip this together. So add a few clips to hold it. And there we go. Okay, so now we're going to top stitch this at a 1/8 of an inch from the edge. So I'm just going to start right here in the edge. Let me pull up my bobbin. Alright, here we go. So I'm putting my stitch length to about a 5. And now we're just going to make our way all the way down the folded edge at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Just making sure everything stays nice and aligned. I'm also making sure that if I need to adjust that my needle is down. Go down the other side. We're still going to keep that 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way down. Okay, so there we go. We have one strap finished. We have one strap done. Let's go ahead and grab the second strap and go ahead and stitch that at that 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, or sorry, 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, that top stitching. And just making sure everything is nice and aligned. I'm going to continue making my way all the way around at the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. second strap is done. We can go ahead and set that aside. I'm going to, I need to tighten up my foot. It's wiggling. Okay. Now that we have our straps in, we can move along to our flap. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our strap connectors. So let's go ahead and grab our strap connectors, and we are going to mark our strap connectors here at actually, yeah. So we want to mark these at 1 inch down the middle. So mark 1 inch down the middle of each of your connectors right here. We're going to do the same thing, add double-sided tape down the middle. Right down the center, we're going to add some double-sided tape. And then we're going to fold the raw edges to the middle. And I do this a little bit different from what I do my straps. These, I actually put my raw edges together instead of leaving a gap. Because we're not folding this again, this is going to make a 1 inch strap connector. So I just do that to all my connectors. Flip and do the same to the other side. Getting it as close as possible. Going to do our last one, and then we're going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch along the edge. So we're going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch. going to top stitch every single side of my connector. So I'm going to start on one side, just chain stitching to make it a little bit easier and quicker for me. And now I'm going to go down my other side at the 1/8 of an inch also. Just like we did on all of our other pieces. I'm just going to unattach or snip off my threads here. Alright, last one here. Alright. Just snip off these excess threads here. Okay, so we have our strap connectors. You're going to go ahead and grab your 4 rectangle rings. And you're going to add them in. And how I like to do is, if you can see, there is a welded part of the hardware. You want the raw edge on the inside and you want the welded on the inside also. So that way you don't see the raw edges and you don't see that weld. I'm just going to clip all my pieces just like that. So there we go. We have our handle connectors together. We are going to set this aside, and you're going to want to grab your flat piece. So, real quickly, I'm going to find my flap. So you'll have an exterior. So you have an exterior and you'll have a lining piece. You're going to want to find your centers. So you're going to want to find your center to your lining flat piece. So you're going to grab your lining flat piece right here. And you're going to want to crease it. And I'm going to snip a little corner out from each of my sides, my centers. So I have my centers marked. And you're going to want to measure 1 3/8 from the center bottom right here. And this is going to be on the lining flat piece. So I'm going to turn it to the wrong side, and then I'm going to measure up 1 3/8 of an inch on that center right there. 1 3/8. Making sure it's centered. And you're going to add your quickly, I need to grab, you need to make sure that you have your magnetic snap, which I did not grab. I'm going to go grab that real quickly. Okay, so now you're going to have your snap. And we are going to line up our snap and mark out where we're going to put our snap. So you're going to grab the washer and then just mark out the place where the prongs are going to be. You're going to want to grab we're going to insert the male side on the lining side. I'm going to trace out a circle from the washer, and I'm going to cut around it, leaving some of the outside. And I'm just going to use this. This is just to reinforce my this is just so I can reinforce my snap. So we're inserting the male side to the lining piece. And now we can close our prongs up. So we closed our prongs up and we have the snap in. Now we're going to put our exterior and our lining piece right sides together, and we are going to stitch this at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So we're just going to clip our edges. And we're just going to clip. We're going to stitch down the sides, leaving the top open so that we can turn our piece out to the right side. Okay. I'm just going 3/8 of an inch all the way around. Okay, so we just stitched this at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around, and now we're going to go ahead and take off some of my bulk here. I'm going to just use some seam, my pinking shears. I'm just going to go all the way around. I'm going to turn it right sides out. I'm going to grab my chopstick, because that's what I like to use to poke my corners out. I'm just going to do it very carefully because I don't want to poke a hole through here. Okay, so there we go. So now, since I'm using vinyl, I'm just going to roll this with my fingers in order to try to get my seams to lay flat. Since I'm using vinyl, I don't want to accidentally melt my vinyl. So I'm just going to make sure that everything is still popping out. Okay, that looks good. So now I'm just going to clip to hold this in place here. Alright, and now we are going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch all the way around. I'm going to put my stitch length to a little bit past the 5. And we're just going to top stitch this. My stitch got a little wonky. Let's try that again. Go all the way around at that 1/8 of an inch seam allowance from the edge. Okay, top stitching is done, And this is what our flap looks like right now. So if you want, you can add the decorative button. I'm going to, I'm omitting that. I'm not going to do that. So we are going to grab our front exterior pocket. This is pocket piece B. You're going to grab the exterior pocket and the front lining. You're going to grab pocket piece B. You're going to place going to grab the exterior piece. So this is my exterior piece. You're going to fold down the center. If you're using quilting cotton, you can iron. We're going to measure down 2 inches from the top long edge right here. So we're going to measure 2 inches down. All right, grab your female piece of your snap and your washer piece. We're going to do the same exact thing that we did to the male side on the flap. We're going to mark out where our prongs are going to be, and then I'm going to cut out a stabilizer piece. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to put in our slices with our craft knife. Add in the female part of your piece. Going to add in my stabilizer here. And there we go. So now we have our female snap in. Grab your waterproof canvas. Oh. Okay. So let's put this right sides together, and we are going to stitch this, making sure that you have it the right way. You want to make sure that you're stitching at the top where your magnetic snap is at. You're going to stitch this at 3/8 of an inch. Okay. We're going to flip this open just like this. And we are going to top stitch this at 3/8 of an inch, or 1/8 of an inch, I'm sorry. Top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance at the top. Okay. So it's top stitched. Grab your front pocket exterior, which is going to be piece C. I'm trying to decide if I want it to be like this with my side panels, or if I want it I'm going to go ahead and just have my piece be like this. So you just want to line this up. So you're going to match the raw edges at the bottom, making sure that you are on the 9.5 inch edge. So you want so this side here is 9.5 inches. Yes. So 9.5 inches is going to be at the top. You know that you did it right if your pocket piece matches just like this. So it should be a little bit of overhang. You can see that's how we're going to match this. So we are going to clip this here, and I'm probably going to baste this. It doesn't say to baste it, but I'm going to go ahead and baste it. That way nothing shifts when I go to put on my side panels. So I'm going to go ahead and baste this around just to make sure it stays. I'm going to baste this at a just 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around. Just to hold it in place when I go to put my side panels on. Like I said, you don't have to do this part. This is just me. Okay, so now you'll just get your side panel pieces and match raw edges together, just like this. It's going to be the 9-inch side. It should match. And we are going to stitch this at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on both sides. So 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Making sure you reinforce your stitches. So you're going to back stitch the beginning and end of your seams. Same thing to the other side, 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, so it's stitched down at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on both sides. Trim this excess threads here. And now you're going to open up your seams and we're going to top stitch along the edge right here. I'm going to put my stitch length to that a little bit past the 5. You can iron up the flaps if you want to. I find that I can just open it up with my fingers and press it. And then we're just going to go down at 1/8 of an inch on the sides here. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side panel. So open up that side panel right here. Just go down at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. We're just top stitching this along the edge. Okay, so now your panel is done. You have it top stitched. Now we're going to want to grab our flap, attach it to your female, put the male to the female side, and just make sure it is nice and straight. And from there, you're going to want to grab some clips to hold it in place. So you have it in place right here. And we're going to base this at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And I think actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to add do I want to add some Peltex in here? No, it should be fine. Okay, so we're going to base this at that 1/4 inch seam allowance, or 1/8 of an inch. Okay, there we go. So we have it basted down. Go ahead and grab your seam, your two of your prepared strap connectors right here. We're going to line up the handle connectors with the outer edge of the flap pockets, which is right here. So we're going to, I'm going to base my connectors right here. I'm just going to base it at 1/8 of an inch. Do the same thing to my other connector. Okay, so we have our connectors here, and we're going to place them right on where your strap handles are going to be. However, I feel like this is going to be, I shouldn't have an issue with the bulkiness, but I don't know if I might put them here on the outside. Should be fine. Okay, I'm just going to follow the pattern instructions. I'm going to line them up with the edge of my flap. So just like that. So line it up with the edge of your flap. And we're going to base this I'm going to base this down I'm going to base this on this connector, and then I'm going to go down and baste it on the second connector. And I'm doing this because I just want to make sure that it is going to be, it's not going to move when we go to the next step. So on this step here, we are now going to, we're now going to grab the exterior top panel piece, which is pattern piece, let's see, pattern piece E. So you're going to grab your pattern piece E, G. Find pattern piece F. Where is it? Yeah, so you're gonna grab your okay, so we're gonna grab the front / back top exterior pattern piece A. And you're gonna wanna grab your front retrieve one of your front, back, bottom, exterior pieces, which is pattern piece F. Let's see. And you're going to want to grab and we're going to stitch this on at 3/8 of an inch. So we're gonna start with the top piece first. So I'm gonna start with the top piece. This is my bottom. And we're going to line up the edges here and clip. And if you're on a domestic machine, it might get a little bulky because of these strap connectors right here. I do know that someone suggested you could just move out your strap connectors to the right outside where your flap is at. If you're using vinyl. If you're using fabric, you should be okay to be able to go over these, to go over the bump or this bulk right here. So we're gonna stitch this at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm just gonna make sure everything is nice and aligned. Alright, so here we go. We're stitching this at 3/8 of an inch. And this is the top exterior piece that we're doing right now. And right here, it's gonna be fairly big. So I'm gonna grab, I have a piece of scrap vinyl that I have around to help me get over humps like this. I'm gonna adjust my sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to go back kind of where it may have went a little off the seam allowance where the bulk was at, and just kind of, there we go, straighten that out. And now I'm going to do the same thing right here where it kind of got a little crazy also. It happens, but it's within the seam allowance, so it's not over the seam allowance, so I'm able to fix it fairly easy. So I'm just going to go. Perfect. Now you will open up the seam allowance right here. You're going to open up and lay flat. We're going to press the seam allowance towards the bottom. And we're going to top stitch underneath. So my seams are facing down. And we're going to top stitch right along this edge right here. We're going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So making sure that everything I'm gonna put my going all the way down at that 1/8 of an inch top stitch. Okay. There we go. So your bag should look like this. So now we are going to do our bottom piece here. So grab your bottom piece. We're just gonna match it, doing the same thing that we did, stitching this at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Just going to match up our raw edges right here. And stitch this at 3/8 of an inch. Press your seam allowance down and top stitch (1/8 of an inch from the edge. Okay, so there we go. We have our top panel done, or our front panel. And I'm going to add rivets right here. Okay. So now we are going to cut out our bottoms. Grab a ruler and you're going to cut 2 inches from the bottom. And I'm just going to mark mine out. Inches and 2 inches here. Okay, 2 inches on each side, and we're going to cut that out. There we go. So now we have our box corners done. And I'm gonna set that aside for now because we are going to start working on the back exterior. So you're gonna set that piece aside. You're gonna want to grab the back exterior piece. So grab your back exterior piece right here, your connectors. And actually, before we move on to that, I'm going to go ahead and put on my nameplate before I forget. So let me see where I want to put my nameplate at. I think I'm going to put it right above here. So I'm just going to do about an inch up. I'm going to find my centers first. Okay, got my center. I'm going to go about 1.5 right here. Mark my little centers. And I'm going to add a scrap piece of deco bill. So that it's adhered to my bag. Add the deco bill. Now I'm going to add a scrap piece of duct tape on the back of my nameplate. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so my nameplate is on. I can set that aside. Now we can grab our exterior back, our connector pieces, along with our remaining top piece and our remaining bottom piece. So the 15.5 inch with the 15.5-inch side at the top. So this is going to be the 15.5-inch side. You're going to want to mark out, let me find my marking pen. I'm going to once again base down my connectors on the end here, just to hold them in place. Gonna base down my second connector here. Okay. Okay. So there we go. Grab your connectors and measure out 4 1/8 of an inch from each edge. So 4 1/8 of an inch. And that is where we're going to place our connector. So 4 1/8 of an inch. And then we're going to go 4 1/8 of an inch from this side. And add our clip. There we go. And I'm just going to kind of check to make sure that it's about it is perfect. Let's go ahead and base this on. I'm just going to base this on with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do the same thing to my other side, basing this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then we can add on our So grab your top piece and we're going to, I'm going to find my centers real quickly for my bag pieces. Find my centers to my top. And my bottom. Okay. Same thing to the bottom piece here. going to match the centers here and clip. And you're going to stitch this at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, just like we did on the front side. Okay. So we're gonna start with our 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Gonna grab my scrap vinyl piece right here, or my scrap piece of leather, so that I can get over that bulk. Okay, let's go ahead and do our bottom piece right here. Okay, 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right. You're going to want your seam allowance pressed down, and we're going to open this and top stitch this at that 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to open up my top stitch length. There we go. Now we're going to open up our bottom pocket, making sure the seam allowance is facing down. Okay, and then we're going to also top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay. Okay, so now we are going to grab the front, back, bottom exterior piece. Let's see. Okay. So we're going to now go ahead and cut out the 2-inch squares. I'm going to, okay, let's see. I'm going to cut out my 2-inch squares right here, and we are going to let's see. Okay. Just going to use this here. These are box corner templates from by Pierre. You can get these at Tops and Bobbins. So I am just going to mark out the 2-inch square. Do the same thing to the other side. Mark out 2-inch square. So we have the 2-inch squares marked out, and now we can cut it out. So there we go. We have our back panel. Grab your front panel and grab your stabilizer if you are using stabilizer. I'm gonna go ahead and real quickly rivet the whoops. I'm going to mark out where I'm going to put my rivets at, and then I'm going to base my foam on. I will base my foam and then put my rivets in and set them. That way they just kind of stay a little bit more flat and they don't move as much. Okay, so let's go ahead and add in my rivets. So I'm just going to, hopefully, let's see, I gotta find my little rivet punch that I have. Somewhere around here. Okay, here we go. Put my foam pieces aside for now. And I'm just gonna eyeball where I want my rivets. Okay. There's one. And two. Need to find where my rivets are at. Okay. There we go. So I have these rivets in. Gonna grab my back exterior, do the same exact thing. Whoops. I'm going to punch my holes. And then we will set them. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my rivet punch. Set these. Okay, gonna do the same thing to my front exterior side. Grab the second one. There we go. Perfect. now you can see what a difference that's made, where it's no longer pulling down on the, it's no longer pulling down. It's nice and flat. So I have done that on both of my pieces. And now we are going to baste on our foam. So you can just grab one foam piece. And just set it on top. All right, and now we're going to baste this around at a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm just going to baste this down. I'm basting this at 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And I'm using a thinner foam than what Pellon is. This is the Pellon Naked Foam. It has no tricot, so I find that it's a bit thinner than the fusible kind. I like it. I find it gives the perfect feel. If I do use foam, it's not too poofy. It doesn't give a very foam look. Alright, there we go. I'm just gonna get my scissors and I'm just gonna trim all this excess foam that may have been left. I just like I like cutting my foam just a little bit bigger so that I know that it will fit on my piece. Now I'm going to grab our second piece, the second foam piece. Same thing, I cut it bigger than what I need. Now we can go ahead and baste this just like we did to the other side. Just going to baste it at 1/8 of an inch all the way around. we go. So now we have our foam basted on. We can add our exterior, start constructing the exterior. Alright, about to be done trimming. There we go. So we have our foam basted on to both our panel pieces. Okay. So we're going to put our bag right sides together now, and we're going to construct the exterior. So just match up your edges just like this on both sides along with the bottom. So matching up exterior, making sure that you want to make sure that this here are matching and even together so that it looks like one, it all fits together. You don't want it uneven. Okay, now we can do our bottom pieces here. Make sure the bottom are matching also. I'm just looking in here to make sure that it's even. I'm just going to continue clipping until everything sits nicely. Alright, so now we're going to stitch this at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Whoops. So we're going to place these right sides together, and now we're going to so we're going to stitch down the sides and our middles at 3/8 of an inch. Now we're gonna stitch down this side. You're gonna leave these open because that's how we are going to box stitch our bag. It will give your bag some depth. We're boxing the corners of our bags, of this bag here. Now we're gonna do the same thing, 3/8 of an inch on the other long side. All right. Trim off these threads here. So, as you can see, we have it stitched down the sides, and these corners are open still. So now we're going to box our corners just like this. Clip it to the side, and we're going to move here. We're just going to match the seams, so just pinch down and match the seams. I like to push mine going opposite ways, and then I will clip on both sides. So this is what it should look like. And now we're going to stitch this at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Making sure you back stitch at the beginning and end. Do the same thing here. There we go. So our bag is box stitched. And for me, I'm going to trim down my side panels. I'm going to trim down this, but I'm not going to trim the middle. So I'm just going to kind of beat out, but still keeping this but I'm getting some of that bulk out. So you can see I didn't cut my side seams here. So now you can pull your bag right sides out. Check to make sure it looks good. I'm going to push out your corners of your bag. There we go, perfect. Do the same thing to your other side. Push those corners out. I just push them out with my finger and they come out nicely. So there you go. And this is what I mean by making sure that these match. so that they match together nice and even. There's not one that's higher than the other. Same with the bottom here. I make sure that these are even so that one isn't higher than the other, so it goes around nicely. So there it is. This is so pretty right now. I'm so excited. I can't wait for the finished bag. Seriously, so beautiful. I love these colors. This tote is going to be perfect to carry my laptop and my planner along with my iPad. Because those are the things that I carry the most with me, which is why I did not omit the foam, because I wanted it kind of to help protect my bag a little bit, along with giving it some structure. So now we're going to be constructing our lining. So grab the lining top pieces. So these are the 2 lining top pieces. This is pattern piece G in your pattern. And you want to grab your lining. I'm also going to go ahead and grab my zipper pocket and have that close to me so that I'm able to use this piece. Okay. So I'm going to find my centers for both of my lining top and lining bottom. So I'm just folding this, and then I'm going to, right within the seam allowance, give it a little snip. I'm going to do the same thing to my lining top pieces. Do the same thing to the other lining top piece. Okay. And now we're just going to match this, match our centers, and we're matching our top pieces. Just like this. Grab your second lining piece, and we're lining this up right sides together. All right. And now we're going to stitch this at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. second lining piece and stitch this at 3/8 of an inch.
Alrighty. Trim off these extra thread pieces. We're going to open up our seams and we are going to top stitch. You want to make sure that your seams are facing down, because you are top stitching right here along this bottom edge here. I'm just going to go 1/8 of an inch all the way across for this top stitching length. Grab your second piece, do the same thing, making sure your seam is folded down. Using cotton, you can use your iron. Since I'm using waterproof canvas and vinyl, I'm just going to use my fingers to press these seams down. And I'm just going to make my way all the way down at that 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. There we go. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and add this slip pocket now. I do my slip pockets a little bit differently, and I will show you how or what I do. So I'm going to mark a 1/2 inch on each side. So 1/2 inch. Half inch. I'm going to grab some double-sided tape. I'm using a 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and I'm going to go right along my edge here of my slip pocket piece. Grab the same right here. Okay. Grab your piece with your double-sided tape, and you're just going to fold up to that line that we marked. folding over so you don't have a raw edge. So there we go. We're going to do the same thing, so take off your double-sided tape. And just go along, folding, making sure it's nice and even. There we go. So now you're going to fold it in half, top stitch across the top. We're going to base this here at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. You're going to match up these raw edges right here. You're not stitching the sides, you're just stitching the top raw edges. I'm basing this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. We're going to press this seam down right here to get it down. And now you have your 1-inch piece that is the length of the slip pocket. I'm going to mark a 1/2 inch. So I have a 1-inch marking right here. I'm going to add double-sided tape, just like I did on my other piece. And I'm going to line up this edge to my line. And then I'm going to just fold over Alright, and now we're going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So make sure everything stays down. You want to make sure that your bottom and your top catches when you're stitching. There we go.
Now we have a vinyl overlay. Now you can just even up the excess vinyl. I'm gonna go ahead and lock these stitches in just in case they unravel. I don't want them to unravel. I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom side. I'm going to lock these stitches in the bottom here. So there we go. So that is done. It is still open, but we don't have raw edges. Now we can attach this to our lining pocket. So I'm just gonna fold this to get my center. And I'm gonna find my center for this piece. And let's see where we're going to put this piece. Let's see. And just realized I forgot to add my zipper panels in, but that's okay. I'll just add a let's see. Okay, I'm going to place it 1 inch down from my top center. So, actually I'm going to do 1.5 inches down. No, 1.25 inch. One inch from the top is where I'm going to go. Let me cut my excess threads here. Make sure it's nice and even. There we go. And I'm going to grab my bottom piece right here and I'm going to clip it to hold it in place for me. Because I'm going to top stitch the sides. So I like to start right below where my overlay is, my vinyl overlay. And I'm also keeping my stitch length at a 5 for this. Back stitching. I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch from the edge
of this zipper panel, or this slip pocket. Making sure that when I adjust, I have my needle down. I'm gonna turn. I'm stopping also right below my overlay. All right. So there we go. We have our zipper pocket, or our slip pocket, sorry. And we're gonna go ahead and split it down the middle. So I am going to just add a chalk line. So I just added a little chalk line, and then I'm going to stitch right down that middle. I'm gonna start on I'm gonna start at the bottom. I'm gonna go all the way. No, I'm gonna start at the top, and I'm gonna go down, and I'm going 1/8 of an inch from my edge, because I'm gonna do kind of like a box for this stitch, because it'll help reinforce the slip pocket. So I'm going 1/8 of an inch from that chalk line, not right on top of it. And then I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch. Alrighty, there we go. So now, let's see where my snips went. We have our slip pocket, and now you're going to add a rivet to both ends and to the middle. Okay. So we're just going to punch a hole. Don't want to go through your stitching. You just want to go above it. And go. And now we're going to add rivets. So I'm just going to grab my rivet press and my rivets. Okay. I'm gonna grab my small rivets since I'm only going through a little bit. Okay. Alright, so I'm just going to add the backings to my rivets right here. And I'm going to set my rivets. Okay. So, now I have a nice little slip pocket. You can set this aside. And now we can move on to our zipper. So grab your zipper facing along with your, if you're doing a zipper facing, grab your zipper facing. I'm not, so I'm going to put my piece wrong sides like this, because this is what my zipper pocket is going to be like. I'm going to mark out a 7-inch zipper, I believe. Let's see. Let's see. So it's going to be a 10-inch zipper, so I'm going to cut my, because I actually should have doubled it on the shorter side than the longer side. So there we go. Find my center right here. we are going to draw out a let's see. So if you're following the instructions, you're going to measure out a box that is 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from the zipper facing. Your zipper facing is going to be wrong sides up. I am not doing a zipper facing, so I'm just using the piece that was in here. I found the center, and I'm just going to use, I'm going to draw out a 9-inch box for my zipper. So a 9-inch box for me. Now I'm going to measure 1 inch from the center. I'm actually going to do 1/2 inch because this 1/2 inch and then this 1/2 inch here will be 1 inch for me from my box. Yes. So just going to make sure that this is straight. And then I'm going to start stitching. Whoops. Okay. I'm just making sure that it's right center and 1 inch from the top. I'm going to sink my needle right in the corner of the box. Holding this straight, I'm going to stitch out 2 parallel lines. Just going to follow this box right here. I only make 2 parallel lines. I don't make a box. One back stitch, and there we go. So we have 1 parallel line done. Go ahead and stitch out the second line. All right. Run out of bobbin. Right at the perfect time. All right. Okay, so now we can just trim off these extra threads right here, get them out of our way, and we are going to snip down the middle of this all the way down, and about a half an inch from that box, I'm going to V out. I want to get as close to my stitching but not going over. You can do the same thing here. Go close to my stitching but not going over. Don't want to accidentally go through it. And pull my zipper through. Just like this. And I'm going to use my fingers to stitch this down, or to press down my seams. Just because I have vinyl, I don't want to accidentally melt my vinyl, because that would be really sad. So I'm just pushing through my zipper. Okay. Now you're going to want to grab your zipper. I'm going to take this over to my iron, and I'm going to try to hit it with some steam and really use my fingers to push this down, hoping that I don't accidentally touch my vinyl. Okay, so I pressed this as best as I could. Didn't really make a difference, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and put on our zipper pull. I'm going to run some heat over this so that I can seal these edges. I have my zipper pull on. A little bumpy. Just gonna come over here and use my zipper jig. Okay, my zipper is in. Just gonna hold it down and we can top stitch this on. Right. Oh. All right, let's try that again. I'm just going at 1/8 of an inch all the way around my zipper. Making sure it's nice and even. There we go. So our zipper pocket is just about done. We just need to add the second pocket. There we go. Zipper pocket done. Let's grab the second zipper pocket piece, which is here. And I'm going to stitch this around with a I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around this zipper pocket. Okay, so I'm going to start on one side. I'm going to turn this up about a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Like I said, I'm going to do a 1/4 inch. Flip this up and go down this side. Getting close to that edge, I'm going to pull up, making sure that the bottom is even. Okay. there we go. And now all I want to do is just put these corners here of the sealants just a little bit, and there we go. So that is done, along with our slip pocket. We can now attach our linings together. So we're going to do the same thing that we did to the exterior. First, I have a little bit of excess here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim that off with my ruler. Same thing here. Okay, so now that I have matched these, we are going to cut out the 2-inch squares like we did on the other side. Oh, like we did on the exterior side of the bag. So you're going to want to grab your ruler. I have these templates, so I'm just going to use those. And I'm going to line them up. 2-inch squares is what we're cutting out. 2-inch, whoops, on that side. Two-inch on this side here. Okay. Grab my second piece. Alright, 2 inches by 2 inches. 2-inch here. Okay, so we have our 2-inch box marked on both of our panels, our interior panels or lining panels. And we're going to cut them off. So I have one. And our second. Okay. There we go. So I'm also going to trim off this excess zipper. There we go. So now we have our two lining pieces. We're going to put them right sides together. I'm going to match up my lining pieces here to make sure that they are even with each other. I'm going to do the same thing to my other side. And now I'm just going to clip the raw edges together all the way around. Okay, so now we're going to stitch around the exterior here. We are going to stitch at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Making sure you back stitch the beginning and end, and then we're gonna go down the bottom here. Last side. I'm going to trim my seam allowance. And I'm going to leave about an inch of from the top where I will cut my seam allowance out. So I'm just going to kind of V out and then V in here. And I'm going to trim my seam allowance on the bottom side here. Okay, now we're going to box our corners. So we're just going to match our seams. Do the same thing to the other side. Open it up, match your seams right here, flip. Alright, And we are going to stitch this at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now we're going to do our other side. Three-eighths of an inch seam allowance. Okay. So there we go. We have our seam allowance. Our box corners done. I'm going to do the same thing I did to the exterior where I just get some of the bulk off, but I leave the seams. I'm not going to cut those. So you can see where I left the seam here, but I cut some of the seam allowance off on the side. Now we're going to put our exterior into our lining. I like to have my slip pocket in the front of my bag, and I like my zipper pocket to be what is touched like up against my body. So I'm gonna make sure that the back of my exterior is what's facing the back of my lining piece. And then what you want, I want my slip pocket on the front. So I'm gonna pull my lining down in there, my exterior panel down in there, and I'm gonna start by first matching my seams, and I'm going to spread them open just like this, or you can match them side to side. I'm gonna do mine where they're spread open. Actually no, I'm gonna go side to side. That will feels a little less bulkier that way for me. I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna match my seams, and then I'm going to turn them out opposite directions. Maybe do this one. There we go. Now I'm going to match my centers since they are marked. Another center right here. And now I can clip this in. We're just going to clip all the way around. Making sure everything is nice and even. All right, there we go. So we have our interior, or our lining and our exterior clipped together. And now I'm going to take y'all to my cylinder machine so that we can top stitch or stitch around this, and then top stitch the bag. So I'm going to take it to my industrial machine, or my cylinder machine right now. Okay, so we are at my cylinder machine. We are going to go ahead and top stitch, or not top stitch, but add on our lining and our exterior together by going at the edge here at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay. So we're just going to go around at that 3/8 of an inch. Okay. So we have our exterior panel now stitched on with that 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And now you're just going to pull through your zipper here. You're going to pull your exterior through your zipper. If you aren't comfortable pulling your bag through your zipper, you could always leave the bottom here open just a little bit, so you'll just stitch down a little bit. You'll still box stitch your edges or your corners. You'll leave this open. You can birth your bag through here and then pull your lining through your zipper and close your bottom lining that way if you would like. Okay. so we're just gonna continue bringing out this lining. Push it down. So you have a nice tight fit. I'm going to just going to grab some of these clips so that I can top stitch this down. I'm just going to go around making sure everything is nice and even on my lining and my exterior. I just want to make sure that they have a nice turn that's not like uneven. Okay, so now that I have it clipped and in place, I am going to top stitch this at a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to put my stitch length to a 5. And I'm going to start right on the back here on this side. And we're going to top stitch this at an 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to start right about here. I'm just going to make my way all the way around at that 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to grab my scrap piece of leather. I can find it. I'm going to get my scrap piece of leather so that I can go over this hump here. It's kind of bulky. Okay. Okay, so our bag is top stitched all the way around. And now we can add our go ahead and add our straps on. One strap and my second strap. I'm just adjusting until the straps are about the same height. You could totally measure this out if you wanted to. There we go. So I have my straps. Now we're just going to add my rivets to them. So I'm gonna grab my rivet punch. My area is a complete disaster, so I'm losing everything. So let's see if I can find. Oh, here it is. Okay. The bag has the option to add strap ends. I chose not to. Just adding my rivets in. Flip over the bag. Add the second side in. Okay, last rivet. Thank you. Okay, so the rivets are in.
So this one yours and this one mine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You want me to open yours? There you go. Okay. Now we can set our rivets in. So I'm just gonna put my Alright, so now I'm just going to set my rivets, and we are done pretty much. This is such a quick and easy bag to make. Oh. We'll definitely be making more of these. Okay. Set my last rivet. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna scoot y'all back so that y'all can see. The bag. Okay. So, this is the bag. So cute. Sorry, there's some weird sound outside. I don't know if it was like a bug or if it was like some kind of alarm, but this is the finished bag. Absolutely beautiful. Love, love, love how it came out. Alright, so that is the Kensley Tote. Thank you so much for sticking with me and watching my tutorial. Hopefully the view is a little bit better. I'm still working on getting a good camera angle. I'm hoping I can find one that works. So let me know if you didn't like this angle. I will try a different one on my next tutorial. So thank you everybody. If you have any questions, you can ask in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Also, everything that I used, all the links are going to be in the description box, including the pattern for the Kensley Tote. So, yes, absolutely beautiful. This might be one of my favorite totes to make. So, thank you everybody. Good night.